Welcome in on a Wednesday, December the 17th. You ever get that, you know it's somebody's birthday that you know, but you're not sure whom's birthday it is that you know?
This is where I'm very thankful for Facebook. I don't get on Facebook much, but I do have to check at least once a day to make sure nobody of note is having a birthday that I have to text or at least. It's funny. There's different degrees of friendship, right? Or, family relationships, because some people, when it's their birthday, you got to call them.
Correct.
The moms, grandmas, dads, brothers, sisters, all that kind of stuff. Other people, maybe it's a cousin, maybe it's an aunt and uncle. You can text them. That probably flies. Other people, friends, family friends, I'll post on their Facebook wall. And you have to make that decision when you evaluate whose birthday it is. I do that every single day. Like, all right, I know that person, went to high school with them, Facebook wall. All right, that's one of my best friends. I'm at least going to text him. Okay, that's my mom or my dad. I absolutely got to call them. Like, there's different levels to how you assess birthdays, depending on who it is.
I'm with. Good call. Good call. Way to analyze that. That was 100% correct. And you're analyzing. Yeah, it's not on Facebook. Happy birthday to Albert Howe out there, a good friend of mine in Lexington. But it wasn't his. Facebook told me about his. I saw it this morning.
Okay.
But we're at that time of year now where I'm trying to figure out Christmas.
Sure.
Figure out anything else in my life, and then you're like 17th. Feels like that resonates for a day.
Whenever you figure out whose birthday it is, immediately put it in your calendar.
Right.
Now, iPhones do this now where if you text somebody happy birthday, it will say, do you want to save this person's birthday in your calendar? I always do yes, because in case I forget to check Facebook or whatever, I at least have that other area of verification, because if you've forgotten this time, there's a chance you're going to forget again. So immediately,
it's going to happen.
Immediately put it in your calendar as an annual reminder of whoever's birthday that is.
All right, kids. So that's some halftime advice on life there as we get you going on a December
the sports show, man.
We are entertainment at its utmost
education
finest.
That's
what we're here for.
So exactly.
We want to be slightly different. We want to be the educational.
The kids are out of school, but the teaching don't stop.
Kids are out. Daughter just wrapped up her fall, I'm going to call it semester because that's what it is, but she's a sophomore at Gilbert and took her final exam today, and we've gotten her out of school. Son is, he might be done at the end of the day.
Let's be honest. They've not been doing anything all week. This is the most, put it in neutral week of the school year. Because everybody's ready for Christmas. All right, we're going to put on Elf, and I'll give you a worksheet, and you can...
Second most. The other one is about the last week before school, when there's truly nothing.
Right, and there's truly nothing to do. But, everybody's ready to get on to the holiday. It's like, okay, school system says we have to be here until Friday or whatever. We're going to coast through the rest of this week. I'll put on a Christmas movie. We'll make ornaments. We'll have hot cocoa or whatever. And, just because we have to be here. That's essentially the vibe.
At least for my kids, I think the only reason Austin is fully in school is because the 8th grade team at Gilbert has a game tonight. He's still out, but he is recovering well, and hopefully 2 months from now he'll be back. But so to be a part of the team, he's hanging out in school. Good for him. But much better than his father ever would have done. So there's just a little bit of personal life mixed with what you should do in life with everything else. There's a lot of other stuff to talk about. South Carolina has an offensive lineman that is now announced for the transfer portal.
Yep, second one.
Yeah, true, second one. This one actually, no offense to, is it Mac Walters?
No, Nick Sharp also. Because Mac was a walk-on.
Well, I even knew less about Nick Sharp than I did about Walters.
Yeah, and Nick Sharp, he started 5 games this year. But Tro is when you look back at the past 2 years, Tro is the most significant contributor you've had into the transfer portal.
That's fair. I was going to ask you. We were going to get to that on. So the offensive lineman is Trovon Ball on Twitter. Gamecock Lifer hits me up, says absolute loss. We don't need to lose the few O linemen we have who showed they could play SEC ball, and then he puts in parentheses at least some of the time.
It's debatable. Again, we got a new offensive line coach. You can tear it down and start over. You can take what you have and build off that.
I think you want the foundation to be there. This is that if you want to go down that path. The question the question changes to what is the time frame Jeremiah Donati is giving Shane Beamer, who, by the way, will be on at 3 o'clock today.
That's correct.
Is it 3 o'clock? Did I see that correctly?
Right, start of the show.
Okay.
When Beamer is available. We operate
That's
on his
right.
time. If he says 3 o'clock, okay, we'll start the show with him.
So Shane Beamer will be on here at 3 o'clock with Jay and Terry. So make sure if you got to dip out, if you got something planned, you're back on listening at 3 o'clock to hear what Shane Beamer has to say. But I think to your point, we are sitting here at 12:05 on a Wednesday. We have not gotten the official announcement of Lenore Sellers.
No, not yet.
And that goes to the question I asked you on Monday of, like, do you hype this up? And I think you do. This is the one time I'll give complete permission to whether fans like it or not, that's a different entity. I think this is the one time you hype it up and you go full Dabo. He could have gone anywhere. He had money coming in left and right, but he chose us. And we got him a new offensive coordinator. I'll never forget thinking this. Will Muschamp had a great opportunity early on in his tenure to do something like this. They were at the football game in January. They were introducing, I think, the new recruits and everything. And he was introducing Sky Moore. And if y'all go way back when, you remember Sky Moore got injured and had to sit out a year and then elected to come back. And I thought that was a big pickup. And as a way of driving some publicity for your team, you hype that up a little bit, especially in a Gamecock environment at Colonial Life Arena. And so I'll admit I'm anti – nothing against Justin King. He does a phenomenal job. But I'm anti any feel-good videos that they're going to put out. You mentioned it.
Right.
I don't want to see grind night or whatever they call it, grit night.
Yeah.
I don't want to see fun being had. As a matter of fact, if you're going to show me a video, I want players in the corners throwing up. I want guys crying on the floor. I want Shane Beamer where you just know his lips are moving, but you don't know what he's saying because he's cussing everybody out.
He's got the vein in his neck is popping out. He's yelling at someone like, all right, I like that. Yeah, now we're getting somewhere.
I don't want to see you guys in there playing wiffle ball and dodgeball and everything. You do that, I'm going to be very upset.
Sure.
You want to show the guys dry heaving outside, some rolling around on the grounds, complaining it hurts? Okay.
Yeah.
But I say all that because this is a little bit different. I do think in this day and age, in the age of Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and everything where social media is about, you do this to promote your team. Because right now, Tyler, we both agree, last year you got all the attention you wanted. You don't need all that attention, but I do think you need a little bit of something where people are like, oh, hey, Lenore Sellers is back. I'll check them out next year.
Yeah, and there's very few players that are in that realm where you can do these kind of things with. Funny enough, I think Carolina has 3 of them that we're still waiting on official confirmation with Sellers, obviously Nick Harbor, and then Dylan Stewart. If all 3 of those guys coming back, then yes, please put that out there. Make it as widely known as possible because if nothing else, that can make you look more inviting in the transfer portal. Because, look, these guys that play college football at other places, they're probably not reading the news feeds on 3 at as high clip as we are. So you may have something in terms of a social media post about Sellers coming back or Dylan Stewart or whoever that maybe catches somebody's attention. Is like, oh, okay, he's coming back. Maybe I'll look at Carolina. I know I'm making it very simple, but those kind of things do happen. So yeah, put it out there as much as you can, build as much hype as you can, and try and capitalize on this feel-good window because, again, I think we talked about this yesterday. We went from being so down and so in the dumps about this program following the Clemson game, culmination of the season, all that kind of stuff. And like a couple weeks later, we're like, no, I feel pretty good about where we're at right now because of the hires that you've made, because of who you have coming back or are set to have coming back. Like, I don't know how long this good feeling is going to last, but capitalize on it while you can.
Week 3.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that it comes to a screeching halt then. I'm just saying it better be
well, even throughout the entire offseason.
It better be week 3 when before we have to let go of our feelings that are positive and good. But we'll talk more about that. Trevon Ball entering the transfer portal. What do you think about that? I mean, I tell you, I put it out on Twitter right before I came here, and I mentioned Gamecock Lifer on Twitter at Will, W-I-L Gunter. You can hit Tyler up at TylerHead18, and as always, you can text in on our text line, 803-404-6100. But, yeah, what do you think about that? Because this is an interesting little concept here. Just because we know of a guy, does that make him good? Because I get Chad weighs in on my text. Not a loss. Big-time W. He said big-time dub. Just because a guy's name is familiar doesn't mean he's good. And so you got 2 differing opinions there on whether it's a loss or not a loss.
Sure.
Because we have known Trevon Ball since he was a true freshman and stepped in and had to play 3 years ago. And by all accounts did a fairly solid job. And I thought this year, at least, he was one of the more bright spots on the offensive line.
I don't think there's anybody in the offensive line room that if they decided to enter the transfer portal now, we're melting down and freaking out about. Yes, there are guys a lot of high upside, and somebody like a Shed Surratt who did come in and was forced into action very early and had his ups and downs on the year. Certainly, somebody you say, man, kind of like to have seen what he could have done in a second year with a new offensive line coach, and even somebody like Josiah Thompson. I think we're all hoping that Coach Clem gets his hands on him and gets him back to being the player that we all think and hope that he can be. But no, I don't think anybody in that offensive line room is immune from saying, yeah, I can kind of see why they want to go play somewhere else. Now, again, we don't know, we're not privy to the nature of the conversations that happen with these exit meetings from a couple weeks ago. Is it something where Beamer's like, I don't know if we see who's a starter next year, or is Ball wanting something else out of this? Does he not like the hire of Coach Clem? Because that's another thing, too. The guy that brought most of these guys here, at least the ones out of high school, and a lot of the ones at the portal, too, was Lonnie Teasley. And a lot of guys, when you move on from their position coach and recruiter, they might want to go somewhere else. He may follow him to Nebraska for all we know. We'll have to see. But when you look at areas where those changes have been made, specifically position groups, when moving on from those type of coaches, you're opening yourself up to a lot of those guys moving, but that's a risk you have to take to get the room as a whole better.
So we'll talk more about that. I kind of disagree. I think there's 2 or 3 guys, because you have a new offensive line coach, and if you believe in Randy Clements, or Clem, as we're supposed to call him, you go, no, I want to see that guy under that coach and what that coach can get out of that guy.
Yeah.
And so I'll give you an example. If something were to come out where Josiah Thompson's entering the transfer portal, I'm like, man, that's not good news. Not because he's been a good player. He was good his freshman year, and that's the proper, I think, terminology to use for him. Good. Wasn't great. Wasn't bad. This year he's bad, but I've seen enough to know that he could be good.
Sure.
Maybe he just needs another coach. I'll defer right now.
Yep.
They get this is the era, right, where we defer. We're like, it was the coach's fault, not the player's fault.
And it is worth noting, especially when you're talking about the offensive line, continuity matters, right? Ideally, you would not like to have 5 brand new guys as your offensive line next year, all coming out of the portal, because that sets you up for failure sometimes. We've seen that a lot around. Colorado had that problem with rebuilding its offensive line in the portal. So, yeah, if you could hang on to Josiah Thompson, if you could hang on to Shed Surratt, if you could hang on to Case and Henry, so we at least have a good base of what your offensive line was from a year ago, and then fill in those other 2 spots with guys from the portal or guys that you're bringing in from high school or whatever it may be, you'd feel good about at least the continuity of that. But all those guys are going to have to improve from a development standpoint under Coach Clem to be able to make that group as a whole better.
803-404-6100. We'll get back into that. Also, last night, South Carolina falls 68-61 to Clemson. There are some implications of that.
Yes.
We need to discuss it. Is the season now essentially dead and buried? We will discuss that, because that's important. Did last night end the season before it even essentially started with SEC play? We'll discuss that and the future of Gamecock basketball here this afternoon. Also, it appears, I think this is relatively new because I just saw it, there's breaking news out of Miami for the Dolphins.
Oh, yes.
Okay, that is, about an hour ago.
Yeah, a little over an hour ago.
I hate to say it now, Adam Schefter's popping up more and more and more in my Twitter feed, and I'm having to look and clarify to make sure it's not a fake account.
Yeah, it's not Adam Shifter or something like that.
Yeah,
and
so hadn't had just...
And the fact that blue check marks have disappeared on a lot of people doesn't help.
No, because we're not paying for it. We're not paying for it. 803-404-6100 is how you can weigh in this afternoon. We'll come back. We'll get into last night's 68-61 loss by South Carolina to Clemson up at Little John Coliseum. It is the halftime show. 12:20 on your Wednesday. Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, producer Ed Bird, as we got a lot to talk about today. But we're going to start here with college basketball last night. It was a big one. It was a big one, 68-61, but Clemson wins. But we had talked about kind of the importance of winning a game in non-conference that was going to have bearing on any kind of resume that you wanted to try if you got to that point. Keyword if,
Sure,
you got to that point, but having a victory that would have a bearing on your resume if you were on the bubble come March.
and if nothing else, just to prove that you could beat a quality team. Again, all of your wins right now are against quad 4 opponents. You've not been, you've had to go to overtime with some of them, like, Southern Miss. You've not beaten anybody of note that's worth anything when you talk about the overall scope of college basketball. Yeah, you've been close in these games, but getting over the hump and finally winning one of them, for nothing else, just have some momentum going into the holidays, right? It makes you feel good some kind of way. And when you add in, it'd be beating a rival in the upstate in Clemson, that makes it feel even better. And last night, I think, was the ugliest of those 4 games. And I know it ended up being a 7-point or a 7-point game at the end. And that gap kind of bounced between 8, 10, 12 most of the night. But it really felt like Clemson was ahead by like 20. For the majority of the game. It just kind of had that feel throughout the night because you didn't feel like Carolina was going to be able to do enough to overcome even those single-digit deficits.
Well, this is, another part of this is the shooting of last night. And, Tyler, it starts to weigh on you at some point. And I know that post-game, Kobe Knox was asked about the shooting and how the team is mentally from that. But let's start with the three-point shooting. I mean, at one point last night, they're 2 of 17.
Yes.
They finished the game not much better. I think it was 4 of 26. Yeah, 4 of 26 last night. You really, truthfully get about next to nothing from Michi Johnson. He didn't score until very late in the game. He was 2 of 9, 0 of 4 from three-point range. Miles Studi was 1 of 5 from three-point range. Your three-pointers hit last night. Kobe Knox, not known as a three-point shooter. Chris Asandiko, when he's hitting three. By the way, I do want to circle back to him because he actually had a game. If you had told me that was going to be his kind of game, I'd be like,
yeah,
I'll take that. But he hits a 3 last night. Grant Polk, who I love, I'm a huge Grant Polk fan, hits a 3 last night. And then Miles Studi, as I mentioned, was 1 of 5. He hits 1. But that was the thing for me watching it, is they can't make a shot. How are they going to win this game?
And look, we knew coming into this game, Clemson's a team that forces a lot of three-pointers to be shot, and the percentage of making them was a little bit lower, but it wasn't like they were contesting every single shot either. Carolina was doing good things to give themselves good, clean looks, and they were missing on those too. And again, it's one thing, because again, when you're a heavy three-point shooting team, you're going to have good nights, you're going to have bad nights. We talk about living by the 3 and dying by the 3. This has now become a trend, though, because in 7 of your 11 games, you've shot under 30%, including under 15% in these last 2 games. You are 7 of 49 in the last 2 games from 3. That's not just this anomaly of a couple of bad games. It's becoming what you are. And again, it's only going to get tougher as you get into conference play coming up here in a couple weeks.
You got some audio for us?
I do. We'll start off with cut number 3 here. This is Coach Paris last night after the game talking about those issues from the outside.
But they were physical. They were physical. We got to learn to make stronger moves on our finishes at the end. But we did finish the ball from 2 at a fairly high rate. And it gives us a 3-point line. I'll look at them again. I mean, we had a couple at the end that weren't great looks, but we also had some others that I think were good looks. And just, guys trying to figure out, getting in tune with their shot. It's a very personal thing, your jump shot. It's a very personal thing. And so, you got to get in tune with it and figure out how to troubleshoot, or sometimes you don't even need to troubleshoot, right? You just need to relax yourself and shoot the shots that you know are good shots.
So I want to take you back for a second, just because we talk about the importance of assistant coaches. Everybody remember Tim Buckley, the shot doctor?
Mm-hmm.
Team hadn't been the same after he left for Indiana 2 years ago. And that was an assistant coach that seemed to help tremendously in year 2. I don't, do I give him all the credit? No. Do I now look back and wonder the importance of Tim Buckley? Yeah.
And you can probably answer this question better because you yourself are a basketball coach. You can obviously simulate situations and pressure and stuff like that in games, or excuse me, in practice, but it's a whole lot different in a game. Again, you're in a hostile environment on the road, go against a rival and that kind of stuff. How do you go about trying to fix this in practice? Like, what can you do to try and improve on this? You can't.
No, this is an off-season thing where you work and you trust your shot. You trust your shot. You can't. I think there's too much going on. This is my opinion. Let me be very clear about this. This is my basketball opinion from coaching it and teaching it and being around it. If you want this fixed, it has to be fixed in the offseason. And it's hard. And at that level, at the college level, and I've talked to a lot of coaches about this because when I was doing scouting, we would talk about a young man's ability to shoot at the three-pointer at the AAU level, and then it would get brought up a guy that we thought might could shoot, right? Two different categories. Guy that can shoot, guy that we think, okay, can improve. And then you had the other guy who, no, he can't shoot.
Right.
So you had the three levels. The majority coaches, and I always love talking to Tony Bennett because Tony Bennett was very thorough on shooting technique. And the opinion of a lot of college, okay? So if you got a kid that's younger and in middle school or even high school, doesn't mean they can't do it. But in college, when you get to college, you're pretty much a shooter or you're not. It is not unheard of for a guy to become a shooter in college. It can happen.
Sure.
I think Michael Carrera here improved each and every year as a shooter. Ja Morant went to Murray State. Ja Morant couldn't have hit the rim if he tried when he was in high school. Like, he wasn't a good shooter. But he became a better shooter and is doing better now. So it's not unheard of. But, Tyler, to answer your question, this is my opinion, and I do want to be clear about that. You are either a shooter before you got to college, Grant Polk. Eli Ellis, I still think is a shooter. He's in a slump.
Yeah. Didn't play last night.
Didn't play last night. Twisted ankles, plural, as I understand. But you got those two, and then you got guys that you kind of want to develop as a shooter, and I think that has to be done with your off-season work, with going out in the gym and shooting 500 to 700 shots when nobody's in the gym and you become comfortable with it.
And that's the crux that you find yourself in now, because the identity of what this offense is supposed to be. And a lot of these guys that when I got in the transfer portal have been guys that have been known to shoot at their other places. Say, okay, great, you bring these guys in, you bring in, you bring in Grant Polk, you bring in Eli Ellis, these guys coming up as freshmen that have that same ability as well. This is what the offense is going to do. And now you find yourself, almost to January and not being able to do it consistently. And it's not like you can go and just drastically change your offense up, because that's not what these guys are built in. And, their skill levels suggest they're supposed to be able to do. So you kind of have to, I guess, work through it and just deal with it.
You got to deal with it. You got to find ways to score, and that's a coach's responsibility. You got to put your guys in the best position to succeed, and that's a coach's responsibility, and that's squarely on the shoulders. Now, I will say this: I think South Carolina has guys that can shoot the basketball, and they're not making them.
Yeah.
What is that? Is that getting clean looks? Is that getting looks where guys are in their best spot? Miles Studi seems to be better from a corner, if he's better anywhere, but he seems to be better from a corner. A lot of his looks probably need to come from the corner for whatever reason. Grant Polk seems like a guy who can shoot it the complete 180 all the way around the half circle that is the three-point line. You can have anything drawn up for him. I don't think you can just come out and pass it around 4, 5, 6 times, swing it around, and somebody launch. There's little movement. By the way, it's a 4-around-1 system. The rebounding inside is not efficient or there because you don't have the bodies. Last night, if you go back and you watch a game, you got guys constantly crashing in to get a rebound, not standing down low waiting on the ball. It's the whole thing I don't completely understand right now. And, and that's even toward the fact that, okay, let's say they're not a good shooting team. Perfectly fine.
Sure.
You still don't expect them to be at 30% for the season, given what they've had traditionally, not necessarily at South Carolina, but at other universities as well for this team.
Yeah.
803-404-6100. We'll continue on this topic, weigh in a little bit more on what this means moving forward, and listen to a little bit more Lamont Paris. You're listening to The Halftime Show.
I mean, but their guy on the ball, they did a good job. I mean, they sat on his right hand a little bit, and then when he did his patented move, a couple of times they were there, and then a couple of times they bumped him in a way that I thought was foul and didn't get called, and then a couple of times he cleared and didn't finish, and then a couple of times, and then when you add all that up, it just wasn't a great day for him that way. And if that happens, that's going to affect our offense significantly if he's not playing. And then probably our second best creator of offense, generally speaking, is Eli Ellis, who didn't play. So, there's a component of that's in there too, between the points that he scores, the assists that he actually gets, and then the other situations that he creates for somebody just with his play.
Yeah.
Those were factors also.
Those are the words of Lamont Paris last night, in particular regarding Michie Johnson. And again, it took him a while to get on the board, and just 2 of 9 in the game from Michie. And look, he had his minutes, 34 minutes, 53 seconds played. He finished with 8 points on the night. He was 2 of 9 from the field, 0 of 4 from three-point range, and 4 of 4 from the foul line. He did contribute in other ways. 6 rebounds is solid. 4 assists is really good. 3 steals, very nice.
But he's supposed to be a high-level scorer. That's his role in this offense. Great when he can grab boards, but he's supposed to be one of your high-level scorers.
Well, he's also kind of supposed to be your point guard, and he had 4 turnovers.
That too.
Yeah, that was not good. So, all right, what does this mean? Because that's the big. When the game's over, we can't change the outcome of the game. 68-61, it's final. South Carolina will likely now finish the non-conference portion 9-4.
By the way, the 3 men's sports over versus Clemson this year. Swept in baseball.
That is Tyler Head, folks.
Lost
if you want to hit him up on Twitter, at Tyler Head 18.
Hey, listen, you brought up the stat from JC about the overall record versus SEC and Clemson this year, so I'm just adding on to that.
Direct all your anger to Tyler Head 18.
Would you like to know what the total combined score in those games was?
No. Of what? All the games combined?
The 3 baseball games, the football game, and the basketball game.
What was it?
114-81.
It's not good. Doesn't sound good.
It's not good.
Doesn't sound good. Again, he is at Tyler Head 18.
Send it my way. I can handle it.
Don't cuss at him is the only thing I ask. Don't send a curse word. So what does it mean? Like I said, now I will be dead honest. If they were to lose to Albany or South Carolina State, is that right? Am I right on that?
South Carolina State, Albany.
I knew it until I went to say it, and I was like, I don't know if that's right. All right, the season's over. I'm not being like, but if you lose one of those 2 games,
well, yeah. But even if you win those games, I mean, which you should, that doesn't change anything.
Well, that's my point. That's where I go to next. Where do you go? Because a texter weighs in and asks, when do we start to lose faith? How long before we lose faith in Coach Lamont Paris? And I got to admit, I don't know if I don't know yet, and I don't know where the fan base is. This has kind of like been the elephant in the room that we all don't, because we all like Coach Paris.
Sure.
We all really like Coach Paris.
Cool guy.
And none of us want to, I don't know anybody's not pulling for him, like not wanting him to win. But at some point, a spade is a spade and your team is your team, and this is who you are. And if it's 3 out of 4 seasons, it is what it is. So, yeah, when does the discussion come up, this ain't the dude anymore? Or is that conversation already? I know some of you are having it.
Yeah.
I know some of you are having it. I just wonder, are we over the 50% threshold?
I think it depends on what message board you're reading, what your Twitter algorithm is spitting out to you, because I'm seeing a lot of negative sentiments. I don't think he has, lost the fan base necessarily, but it's to the point where, and again, you unfortunately get the draw of Vanderbilt, who's having perhaps the best season of anybody in the SEC right now, right out of the gate at home on January 3rd. Georgia having a really good season so far. You get a lot of heavy hitters, Auburn there in the early going as well. A lot of heavy hitters right out of the gate where, I mean, it's not outside the realm of possibility. You could start out, 0-3, 4, 5, 6, something along those lines.
It's not a realm of possibility you go in 18.
It's not. Again, you started 0-13 last year, and again, where do you find that specific game that at that point people say, okay, it's over? I don't know, but I don't think it would take long.
And that's why I ask. I don't know if that was last night or not. Look, say what you want, beating up on North Carolina A&T, Presbyterian, Radford, Albany, South Carolina State, Stetson, Citadel, they do nothing for you. Now, there is a time where if you're winning two of these big four, if you will, you go, okay, well, he's learning his roster, and, okay, he's going to be 11-2 going into conference play, and, all right, I lost to Butler and I lost to Clemson. I can get over that. That's not what happened. And I have said it, and I'm not doing it to be critical of anybody over at the university, but I think it's the truth. I think it's the truth. Tyler and Terry and Jay and anybody else can speak their opinion. 2026 is the year of Jeremiah Donati.
Yes.
There are going to be tough decisions that will have to be made. And I'm going to be honest. I'm looking into the what was it, the Magic 8 Ball.
Yeah.
No, I'm not seeing a good season. I'm not seeing a good season for basketball. I'm not seeing them get to more than 5 conference wins. And I think the easy decision, given on history, 3 out of 4 years, is to move on. If that is indeed what it is, that's statistical. That's not an opinion. I guess it's an opinion because I'm basing it on statistics and numbers, and not my own I don't see improvement. It's there actually to prove.
Again, 0-4 against quad 1 and 2 so far. Let's say Michie gets that last shot off against Virginia Tech and you win that game in regulation, and you'd still lose the other 3 games. Are we feeling differently, or does having just one win bolster more confidence?
I don't know about confidence, but it keeps you engaged. That you're like, all right, I think they can win a couple.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think the SEC. Now, last night Tennessee just blew the doors off of Louisville last night, just ran them out of the building. But I don't believe that the SEC is super strong this year in basketball. Not in the way they have been. Good conference, all right, very good conference. Going to still get upwards of double-digit teams in, probably closer, maybe 8 or 9, but still a very good conference. But I don't think that they are the juggernaut that they were when 14 teams went in last year. I don't think they're anywhere close to that.
That was the single greatest season for any one conference in the history of the tournament. That's hard to replicate. So I guess it would be expected there'd be a little bit of regression. Again, we don't know. We'll see getting into conference play who kind of emerges and who ends up, being at the top when it's all said and done. It's still going to be a good conference. It's still going to be a tough conference.
Oh, no, yeah,
but the barrier of entry to get in because you're in the SEC is a lot higher now because, like you said, the league, they're under 500 against power opponents in non-conference compared to obliterating them this time last year.
Let's listen. One thing that will be important for basketball is the thing about the SEC is they're still a physical conference.
Right.
Extremely physical. So you haven't seen the last of physical teams. Here's Lamont Paris last night talking an issue that they had with Clemson, and that was Clemson's physical nature against the Gamecocks.
No, like the one that Miles hit, we ran a set for that to get him that look, and he drilled it, and I did. I thought, all right, let's let him be the guy today that's going to, and that's how it is. Seems like everybody's got a team that they play fairly well against, and his has been Clemson, generally speaking. But it wasn't to be. Just really couldn't get going from a shooting standpoint either. And I'm telling you, we got discouraged by their physicality. I probably can't emphasize that enough. It did our ability to move, our willingness to move more than anything. Our willingness to then move when every time I moved, this movement is not a free movement. And so that impacted our general feel of what our offense looked like. You talked about late shot clock situations, that stuff was happening. And we did a couple times. We set some screens. We were moving and screening and cutting off of them. Mike got freed up early on. And so, we'll learn from it, hopefully get back in the lab and see what it looks like to play against a team that's going to play this brand of defense. They were heavy in the gaps, too, and then get better.
We'll talk more about this. We'll decipher some basketball here. I know there's a lot of you, and I'm kind of interested to hear where we are percentage-wise with the fan base. Is there anybody out there listening this afternoon that still has belief? I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to say this in a negative way, but do you have belief in Lamont Paris? Because I think that's a legitimate question.
Sure. Yeah.
So weigh in. Send us a text. If you just say yes or no, I'll know what you're talking about. Yes or no. 803-404-6100. do you still have that belief that he's the man for the job? And it's okay if you do. Don't hide in the shadows. Be strong with your opinion. But yeah, Tyler, I wonder, and that's why we have this conversation now.
Yeah.
Because it may be very, very, very apparent come the end of January. 803-404-6100. You're listening to the Halftime Show. 803-404-6100, how you can weigh in. Again, I'm interested in this to see where kind of like a poll here, if you will, because I think like Trent says on our text line, 803-404-6100, he says, I like Coach Parrish, but no. So, no, he doesn't have faith. Another texter says, heck no. Helps if y'all send in your name. No from a third right off the bat. Brad says, I love Coach Parrish, and I truly believe he's a good coach. His belief in Miles Stute is truly mind-boggling and may seal his fate at South Carolina. Let's see here. Just kind of going through these real quick. I got 2 more yeses, 3. There's a third. This is another texter. I still have belief. Alex weighs in and says, Lamont, still waiting to see how SEC play goes. Not expecting much, but he deserves to finish the season at minimum. I'm with you on that. I'm not going for a midseason firing, if that is what the direction goes, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you let him ride out the season no matter what it is. I do think there's a point, again, if you're staring at starting 0 for double digits in conference play, where somewhere pretty soon you're going to lose the confidence from the fan base. But yeah, you let him ride out the season and just see what happens, and then if you're going to make a move after that.
Yeah, basketball is entirely different than football.
Their calendar makes more sense.
Yeah.
So you don't have to make a firing in February to set yourself up for the next season.
Rusty weighs in and says, no, never understood the hire. South Carolina's got to go get a proven 4 head coach. It'll cost, but imperative in Columbia. The whole staff, locals included, should be shown the door by 3/16/26. And Heath, not our Heath Klein, but Heath out in Aiken says, again, heck no. So,
Look, you're not wrong for feeling however you want to feel. Like, it's justified considering what you've seen so far this year.
I'm kind of a little, I'm probably 55-45 with Alex on that. All right, how do you do an SEC play? How do you do? Now, with that being said, I also look at SEC play like, how are you going to do that? How are you going to get to 5 wins?
Yeah.
And I guess as I'm talking myself out, as I'm speaking outwardly, I was watching the game. I did talk with my son Austin a little bit last night, but I guess as I'm doing this outwardly,
sure,
having kind of in-the-minute discussion, I feel like I'm talking myself into 5 wins is the borderline of like, all right, what are we doing here? If it's below 5, I'm like, that's 3 out of 4. If it's above 5, well, it starts to get to the number and what games you want and when you want them, because I'm a big fan of Grant Polk. I really like E.J. Walker. I think if you can keep Eli Ellis, and you got to keep all these guys too. And I do like, he didn't play much last night, but I do like Hayden Simeon. Mm-hmm. I think there's a small foundation to start with. You got to add to it. You got to do better in the portal.
Sure, and that's the thing, because in the portal, you've hit 1 year, and you got a lot of good guys like B.J. Mack and Talon Cooper and all those guys that came in and helped you on the way to the NCAA tournament. But the other years, most part have kind of been misses. And I don't look, Michi is its own unique circumstance there. I wouldn't count him in the same way as I count the other guys in the transfer portal. But yeah, your track record at this point is missing more than hitting in the portal so far.
803-404-6100 to the phone lines we go. Drew wants to weigh in. Drew, how you doing? What's your thought on basketball right now?
I've checked out a long time ago, Bill. I know you're well-versed. I'm a basketball junkie. I've been in the Gamecock Club for 30 consecutive years. I was in school at Carolina with Melvin Watson and Larry Davis Jr. I forget the kid, Nate, that transferred from Ohio State to us.
Wilborn.
Mackey.
Nate Wilborn.
Yeah, Nate Wilborn. And I was dialed in. I was in school, and then I was dialed in after that. Had season tickets, and I had season tickets for men's basketball in over 18 years. I dropped them. I go to the women's games, every game, don't miss them, go to their postseason. I've been checked out for a while. We could rehash the history. I know you're well-versed, the coaches and our so-called glory days. I just think you come out a lot of factors that we have to overcome. It's kind of the chicken for the egg for the chicken. The attendance difference between the men and women is drastic. The women average, I think, plus 13,000. The men, I bet, don't average. I don't know what the average. I don't know the number, but I can assure you it's very, very low. So when you're trying to get these recruits and, transfer portals, and you go to a gym that's empty, that's a negative. And then, as far as our footprint, as far as our geography, we're having to battle against schools from the ACC, which whether it is, a better league or not, it's always thought of as a better league. It's always thought of as a basketball league. So you're battling all these schools within a 200-mile radius, in the ACC, and you're battling the SEC. To me, it's a very, very, very tough gig. I don't, know the answer coaching-wise. I don't know. But me personally, I don't care about the men. I'll tune in at the house if I'm not busy and watch it on TV, but I just don't waste my time and money going down there.
Appreciate the phone call. We got to hit the break, buddy. Appreciate it, Drew. We'll come back. We'll continue to discuss this a little bit. Do you have faith? Yes or no?
It's all right here for our friends over at Tilly's Warehouse, the first wine and spirit store in 5 Points in the past 20 years. Do you have somebody in your life that has a sophisticated beverage palate and you need to shop for them for the holidays? Well, Tilly's has got you covered, whether they want wine or tequila or just something in the can like a High Noon or a Cutwater or something along those lines. Well, Tilly's has got all that and so much more. Locally family owned and operated right there in the old Pavlov's building in Green Street, right behind the Salty Nut Cafe. It's impossible to miss. Get over there. Get your Christmas shopping done. By the way, if you mentioned that you heard this ad on 107.5 The Game, you can get 10% off any wine selection as well. Stay connected with them on Instagram and Facebook, or visit their website at tillyswarehouse.com for more information to check their selection as well and discover why Tilly's is your new must-visit spot over in 5 Points.
How do I start this conversation? You want a little personal glimpse into the life of being a father with a daughter who can now drive? We're trying to purchase a car.
Sure. I wouldn't know, but tell me.
So trying to purchase 16-year-old daughter a car. Now, I want to know if a lot of other parents out there have gone through this situation or how y'all handled it. Little me time, little therapy session to open the 1 o'clock hour. Trying to purchase a car for Christmas. She can drive. I said, hey, she just went and test drove the car. I said, how did you like it? I like the car a lot. Only issue. There's no digital speedometer.
Okay.
But I know I can work around that. 803-404-6100. How important in your life is your digital? Now, a lot of you are closer to my age than you are Tyler's. So there's a lot of us, I'm 43, who maybe your first car my first car didn't have a digital speedometer. Actually, I would say my first 3 cars, I don't believe.
You're talking about where it specifically tells you the exact mile per hour that you're going. That's
Right.
what she's talking about.
Right.
That are-
Instead of looking at the little gauge where it goes
Yeah.
up and goes down.
How many cars even have those now?
The digital?
Yeah.
Or the manual?
The
Or
digital,
whatever you want to call it here.
The digital. I know most have the manual. Like, how many cars have the digital now?
I assumed all of them did at this point.
Oh, because, my car's a 2015. It doesn't have that.
It doesn't have digital?
No, it doesn't. It has a little, just little tack.
The little gauge?
Yeah, little gauge.
Really?
That's what I've always driven.
Huh.
Yeah. I know like some of the newer cars, yes, into like the 2020s,
I would
sure.
have guessed anything from 2015 on.
I think because my dad's got a 2019 Tacoma, and I want to say it has the gauge too. Don't quote me on that. I think I may be wrong, but yeah, there's plenty of cars out there
I
that.
gotta admit,
Yeah.
this is one of those things. And my daughter's smart, like overly smart, like it's too smart for her own good. Smart, and she's also got a little mob in her. I'm terrified of her, if I'm being dead honest, to the whole community. Like I'm petrified of my daughter. She's the one that could step in and run a mob. My son is the one that loves it.
What is the quality that makes you think
basically
that?
no feelings for anybody's
Okay. All right.
else's feelings or whatever. She's the one that's like she's there for you and she loves you, but
Okay.
if you do something behind her back, you might want to like make sure that you don't end up swimming with the fishes in Lake Murray.
So if this car thing doesn't go well, you're looking over your shoulder constantly, is what you're telling me.
And she's gonna be with me a lot during Christmas, so I'm a little petrified. But
Don't go to the mailbox.
I don't know. I didn't know for the young kid. Yeah. I didn't know digital thermometers now are. I thought that was a regular thing. A, you just informed me it's not. B, like I was kind of like, all right, of all the things you want in a car,
Sure. That's the deal breaker?
that's the biggest issue.
Yeah.
Because I grew up with cars that, and I think
Yeah.
we all did, right?
Yeah, of course. I'd be willing to bet that 95% of the cars on the road still have the
gauge.
The little gauge.
Yeah. So welcome. I don't know if anybody else is dealing with that. David weighs in and says digital speedometers are great, except when you mash the button and you don't know it and it turns into a kilometer. Oh, good God. Kilometers per hour. And you look down and you're doing 107 kilometers and you think you're really speeding.
That is a problem.
It's an issue. All right. If anybody else.
I feel like it's one of those things, and I guess if she's never driven, then she doesn't really think about this. But like with like the first day, okay, yeah, that might be annoying having to read the little thing, but like I feel like you get used to it pretty quick, and then you're like, all right, this just is what it is. Like if I was transitioning into a digital speedometer, it'd be kind of weird. But then like after a day or two, I'm like, okay, it is what it is.
Yeah, I've driven now, 15, 16 is what we could do back in the 90s. So I've driven now for over 25 years. How much do you even look at your digital thermometer or your thermometer?
Speedometer.
Speedometer. Yeah, I'm sorry. I got to admit, there's times I do. There are certain times I'm really paying attention. But I've told you a couple times, I'm coming here, I'm just having a nice Sunday drive, which on a Wednesday, trying to get to the studio, just checking things out and in my own world.
When you drive enough, I think you get a pretty good feel for what your speed's supposed to be. Now, when you're on the interstate and you see, a cop sitting ahead, waiting at one of the exit ramps, something like that, then you say, oh, look, I'm going 10 miles over. Maybe I should slow down a little bit. But I think for the most part, especially around town, you kind of get into your groove of what feels right, and usually you're pretty right on that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, welcome to being a parent, and I love her. She's an incredible daughter. She's phenomenal, but she terrifies me. And I feel like we've got to get this.
The mob thing, that's funny.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, no. She'll be the next great mob boss of Columbia, South Carolina, and work her way up to stardom. As long as she takes care of Dad. As long as she takes care of Dad, that's all that matters.
Yeah, don't ask where the money comes from.
Sir. All right. 803-404-6100. There's a glimpse into my life, and I don't talk about my daughter enough, but she is, I love her. And if she's in the car and she's listening, good job, sweetie. Love you. Dad loves you. 803-404-6100. All right, we've covered a lot of stuff today as it pertains to South Carolina athletics. We'll get back into the basketball. I don't know. I don't know on basketball. I don't know where to put this team right now. And quite frankly, Tyler, so far in people weighing in on our unofficial text poll, 803-404-6100, yes or no, do you still have faith in Lamont Paris with people weighing in? I'm looking at it. It's a very small sample size. It appears almost split, 50-50, where there are people. But again, we like, as a person, it's pretty conclusive that people like Lamont Paris. Right. And people are pulling for him to succeed, right? There is a difference between I want that guy to succeed and man, because I'll be honest, this was before your time. Darren Horn was here, and things were going very south.
Right.
And people were like, I don't want that guy to succeed. Get him out of here. Yeah. He is a jerk amongst jerks. Get him out.
If Paris had that personality, if Paris acted like a Dan Hurley or somebody along those lines and wasn't also having success, then yes, I think the compassion drops a whole lot more. But by all accounts, we've had him in here before. Lamont seems like a good dude, somebody that, you could hang out and talk to and obviously knows his basketball and all that kind of stuff, which is why he's gotten to this point. But the results on the court just aren't what you need them to be. So, yeah, I do think that's holding some people there of I still like the guy as a person and I want to see him be successful. But as more losses continue to happen, that starts to falter quite a bit, too.
And to your point, SEC play is going to be big. And so we'll continue talking about that this afternoon, let you hear a little bit more from Lamont. Last night after the 68-61 loss. Gamecocks now 7-4 on the season. Again, the Ken Palm rankings, the RIP, the numbers aren't good. The numbers are not good. And I'll come back to some of these texts here in just a little while, but keep sending in your thoughts on the basketball program. And even though we're not the SEC play, and we have to acknowledge that, there is still, last night was game 11. There's 31 total games. We have to acknowledge that this team has still got 2/3 of the season essentially remaining. I know that 2/3 would be getting all the way to 33 games, and they've got 20 left. But the point being on this is there's still a lot of season, and I know there's some that are going to go, man, the guys on 107.5, oh, my God, they were going ahead and writing off Coach Paris. Those guys, hey, they stink as radio hosts. Oh, why are they doing that? Well, I hate to say it. We said it yesterday. Yeah. The conversation kind of starts now.
It does. Because we have enough of a sample size against quality opponents and non-quality opponents to see. I can guarantee you, if over the next 11 games, which 9 of those would be SEC games, if you're under 30% from 3 in 7 of those games, you're not going to win many of them. And probably not any of them.
They're 29% now for the season. After last night's 4 of 26 performance, as a collective team, they are 29.9% from three-point range. Miles Studi's at 23.7. Elijah Strong, who's had no problem shooting some threes, is at 24.3. Kobe Knox has tried a couple. He's at 24.2. Eli Ellis is at 23.3. Outside of Michi Johnson at 35%. And my guy, again, I'm a big fan of Grant Polk. I'll be dead honest with y'all. Grant Polk's 43.6%. And that ain't because he shot 10 of them and he's made 4. I know that's 40%. But Grant Polk, right now on the season, has let go of 39 threes and made 17.
Yeah. He's a guy that can come in and get you that little boost of momentum when you need it, when you're having a night like last night where things just aren't falling. You're hoping he comes in, makes some, and that kind of lets everything else fall in line behind that. Not always a guarantee, but he has that ability to do that.
Yeah, he is 17 of 39 on the season for that. And just for those wondering, that's more than Kobe Knox. That's actually, now granted, he's played a little bit more lately. That's more three-pointers than Eli Ellis has taken as well. 803-404-6100. The other thing, and we'll get into this a little bit more as we roll through the show, South Carolina loses an offensive lineman in Travon Ball. And I think Tyler summed it up well. This is probably the first time in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
You got to say Juice Wells was significant. The way it all played out diminished our opinion of him. But losing Juice Wells was big. You can hate the guy all you want, and that's fine, and maybe we should, but that was significant. But Trovon Ball, to me, I'm with you. I'm with you.
And when I say this, I'm going back like last offseason, you didn't lose anybody of significant note to the portal. Yes, when you go back 2 years ago now, when you talk about guys like Juice Wells, even a Stone Blanton, who was a significant contributor on defense and linebacker spot, you did lose those guys. But, last year you didn't lose any significant starters. This year, Nick Sharp started a handful of games, but Trovon Ball did start 11 out of your 12 games this year, so he was one of your mainstays on that offensive line. Again, depending on who you ask, some people say, hey, that's great, we didn't need him anyway. Other people would say, all right, he's somebody that has upside and potential, and I would like to have seen Coach Clem get to try and develop him back to the point of being a good player again. So, again, it's kind of a mixed bag on how people feel about that loss, but still, he is somebody that did start for you most of the year.
Yeah, I feel like he was solid. We'll talk about that. And again, we do have to acknowledge with Shane Beamer, and some of y'all are not gonna. It's not gonna matter to you. If there are more portal losses, does that change your mentality for 2026? Because you said it earlier. You likely now have Stewart, Harbor, and we're awaiting official. I guess we're awaiting officially all three of them. Although I think Harbor did put something out on Instagram that wasn't official. Yeah. Officially official.
Sure.
But it was kind of like I'm running it back.
I think this begs the question, like, okay, let's assume Sellers, Harbor, and Stewart all coming back. Who is somebody on this team that if they did decide to go in the portal, that you would be like, oh, no, we can't lose that guy. Like, oh, what a huge loss. Like, who would that be?
Okay. All right.
Think about that.
We'll throw that poll question at you. Outside of the big three there, Stewart, Harbor, and Sellers, who do you consider the fourth player? I've got one, and I don't know if you agree with it. I'll tell you who that guy is. I'll get your opinion if you've got a fourth.
Yeah, I got a couple names in my head right now.
Weigh in with your opinion on that. Outside of the big three, who is the one guy South Carolina can simply not lose in the transfer portal? I'll also put that up on Twitter and tag Tyler as well, at Will, W-I-L, Gunter, G-U-N-T-E-R. Who is the one guy outside of the big three that you look at on South Carolina's roster and like, we simply can't lose that dude, that we got to keep that guy? You're listening to Tyler Head, Bill Gunter. He is producer Ed Bird. It is the Halftime Show. Bill Gunter for Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years they have been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. And it's those 30 years that proves to you there's no one better at it than Mid-State Roofing. Larry Leitner and the family are ready to help you, and they do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You heard that right. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You give Mid-State Roofing a call. You'll speak with an on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee. Because let me tell you, roofs don't know when they're going to start leaking. It could happen at midnight. It could happen at 3 a.m. Might happen in the middle of the day. But you need someone there that can help you with a maintenance contract and protect your operation to keep it dry and running long into the future. And that's precisely what Mid-State Roofing will do. So whether you're here in Columbia, Greenville, Charleston, Spartanburg, Aiken, Augusta, Mid-State Roofing is there for you. 803-356-1919. Again, it's 803-356-1919. 118 on a Wednesday. Tyler Head, Bill Gunner carrying you through as the weather warms up a little bit for us.
Yeah, it was
Better.
actually pretty nice yesterday, all things considered. Consider it was what it was earlier on this week. I don't know, having looks like Christmas can be like the 50s or something.
Yeah, actually, you can look at your weather app now. And,
I can,
and
yeah.
get
We're next week is Christmas Eve, man.
All right.
We're looking at it'll load 62 and sunny, at least here in Columbia.
Very nice
on Christmas. I'll take that.
That's some good grilling out weather. That's perfectly good. So, cool deal. All right, 803-404-6100. Two main topics right now for you to weigh in, and if you do, I'll get to both. One is on the current status of the basketball program. What is your confidence level? And, Tyler, let me go back to some of these text messages and see what you agree with. Jacob says, I want Paris to succeed just like I do Beamer. I'm just not sold if they can.
Okay, and when we were talking about the personality, I think you can draw a lot of comparisons to Coach Beamer, Lamont Paris, as guys that seem very likable, guys that do seem like they want to be here, and that makes them a little bit easier to pull for, and I think gives you a little bit of a longer leash in terms of what you'll accept from them before you say, all right, this just isn't working. We need to make a change. Again, it does seem like with Paris, you're getting towards the end of that rope, but I think being a likable guy does help him out a little bit.
Matt weighs in and says Lamont's hiring brought zero excitement to the fan base from day one. This will be the first mess of Ray Tanner that our new AD will need to fix. And, and I don't want Lamont to lose his job. That's not what I'm trying to say here. I know South Carolina basketball. I know some stuff people can say, well, that's not true. Okay, cool. I've been in the hospitality rooms.
Yeah.
With coaches during AAU stuff. I wish I don't have the time, the energy, or I don't think I have the credentials anymore to do this. I guess I could call a couple of the people I still know in AAU and go, hey, can you get me in? I would love to run a poll amongst these coaches that come into these hospitality rooms. And it's everybody from John Shire at Duke all the way down to Bob Ritchie at Furman. You get the whole gamut of people, right? My belief is that if I put a random poll out there and said, name me the worst high major job, and that's how you have to word it in the basketball level, because the Big East is not a high major football. There's no Big East in football. But in basketball, they are one of the elite leagues. So you say high major.
You count Gonzaga to it out on the West Coast.
Well, what you just said is Gonzaga.
Yeah, well, that's
you
what
don't
I mean.
count.
Hey, I didn't mean the whole West Coast Conference,
Right.
but like them, they're kind of like the
They're
exception.
a high major
They're
program.
a high major program in a mid-major league.
Right, exactly. So you say high major program, high major league. So SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Big East are really your big ones. That's probably the five that you would label there. But I say all that because if I took those five conferences and I said, what's the worst job out of all those conferences, I would guarantee you right now South Carolina is in that five.
Okay.
I would guarantee it. I mean, that much I guarantee. And it wouldn't surprise me if a poll came back of college basketball coaches to have South Carolina in the top three of worst jobs at a high major level. And so I say all that, not to put anybody down or to say it can't be done here, but I say all that because a basketball coaching search, is always wild to watch around here because South Carolina's made six true hires in my lifetime that I remember. All right. I don't remember the George Felton hiring, right? But they've made six major hires. You've had three names where you're like, man, it's a pretty good hire.
Yeah.
You had three names where you're like, okay. And two of those resulted in a firing. Three big hires. Eddie Fogler got into a huge argument with the Vanderbilt AD and wanted out. South Carolina said, we'll take your attitude. Mike McGee said, I like it. Let's go get it. Let's get it done. You got him. Dave Odom was a big name. Now, Dave Odom was being run out of Wake Forest, Tyler, but Dave Odom was a big name.
Yeah.
And then Frank Martin was a huge name who had gotten in a huge fight with John Curry. And basically John Curry said, get your bleep out of here. And there was a couple schools like, he's a little risky. And at that time, Eric Hyman stepped to the podium and said, you're our guy. Those were three great hires. And in some way, shape, or form, it all produced success at some level. The other three I'm familiar with are Steve Newton, Darren Horn, and the current dude, Lamont Paris. That's an interesting little grouping of coaches there, Tyler.
That's a good way you put it. And I wasn't here, wasn't doing this job when he was hired. Like, what was the initial sentiment? And again, there's debate on, okay, where was he in the pecking order and all that kind of stuff. But what was the sentiment locally when they hired him and it was finalized?
He won the I thought he won the press conference. I think when, there's always that's the dude. And then you hear the press conference, and you're like, okay, all right, I'm with that guy. Or, no, I thought he was phenomenal in the press conference. And I think that's the thing. Coach Paris is articulate. He's got a great sense of humor. He's got a personality. He's friendly. He, by all accounts, if you listen to him talk, knows basketball. Will Muschamp was, in a way, if you knew Will Muschamp, he was all those things too. We as a coach, you'd see a slightly gruffier Will Muschamp.
You don't get to this level by not knowing what you're doing. Obviously.
Well, I would debate Gene Chizik. I'll always point to Gene Chizik and be like, that dude went 5-24 at Iowa State, and Auburn boosters saw a dude who's willing to cheat and a guy we can push around and run the program
and
through.
If he brought in the greatest quarterback college football's ever seen, we can win a national championship.
You could almost say the same thing for Ed O.
That is also, that was not only a great quarterback, a combination of perhaps the
greatest
best
wide
rosters
receiver
we've ever seen in college football.
So you don't always get to where you're at by just knowing sports. But the point being is basketball coaches hirings around here fascinate me because of those six, and we'll see where this goes. But are you still involved? Are you still with this team, or after year 4? Darren Horn got 4 years, by the way. Everybody else, Steve Newton only got 2, I think, if I remember back. That was very early in my life. But and again, the George Felton days, it's kind of like our discussion about Steve Taneyhill and Robert Brooks and Todd Ellis. I knew those guys do stuff like the highlights and jerseys and legends that were told. I remembered Steve Taneyhill.
Yeah,
I heard about stuff that George Felton did around here, and if what he did in 1989 and if he did it again in 2025, they'd probably find a way to keep him. They didn't in 1989, and maybe that changed the course of South Carolina basketball. That's another one of those woulda, coulda, shoulda things. But if we go down that path, I don't have high expectations for a basketball hiring. So we'll see. 803-404-6100. But we'll continue to talk about this because let's get out in front of it, right? Are you with me on that?
I think that's fair because, again, we kind of can use the sample size we have to say, okay, based on what we think we know about the conference, here's where we can kind of imagine it going, and it's not great. Now, that doesn't mean things can't change. You can't suddenly get better and start figuring things out, but what we have so far tells us it's going to be a long 3 months of navigating your way, or 2.5 months navigating your way through conference play.
803-404-6100 is, again, how you weigh in. By the way, our buddy Steven weighed in and said, yes, he still has faith in Lamont Paris. The other topic of discussion has been, and we're going to get more into this in the next segment, who is the player that South Carolina simply can't lose through else? Now, Steven also weighed in and said, I told you my opinion, a 4-8 football team cannot, he should say cannot, get it right, Steven, cannot afford to lose anyone. The focus better be on adding. True.
Well, no team can afford to lose anyone.
Right.
You're just making a generality at that point.
True. But the point on that, you got to keep what you got. Like, I don't know what you're going to get in the portal. You're going grocery shopping and you're starting off kind of blindfolded. I know what's on this roster right now. So my guy that they simply, and I'll get to yours in the next segment.
Okay.
My guy they simply can't lose is Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy.
We have the same one.
Okay, we do?
We do.
I think he's coming along. And I've talked to some people down there. They're excited about, for people that don't know, this was his first year back from that ACL injury.
And he was banged up throughout the year, too. When it went in and out. I think nobody was on the field with trainers around them more than 99 this year.
He's got to,
felt like.
He's got to get back healthy. He's got to get back into shape. He's got to get healthy. He is a central piece to Dylan Stewart being successful, the linebackers being successful, the secondary being successful. I'm big on this. He's a big one. That, to me, is the dude, because you have to have guys like that on your line in the SEC. And so I look at it, and I look at Fred Johnson, and he's important, and Judge Collier, and Vakari Swain, who y'all have weighed in with. Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy is the next guy on that team that I'm like, I want to see confirmation he's back. He is a monster piece to 2026.
You get him, and if you can add another proven guy next to him in the middle of that defense, we saw good things like Troy Pikes had a really good game against Clemson.
Troy Pikes was coming along at the end of the year.
If you can, and maybe it is Troy Pikes, I don't know. If you can have a consistent 1-2 there in the middle of your defense to complement those edges on the outside, you can wreak a lot of havoc on defense next year.
I think you got to have a 1-2-3. I'll never believe that more than after last year, 2024, with Huntley, with Tonka, and with who am I blanking on? That was the third. Why I shouldn't be doing this. Who was the other one? Huntley, Tonka, and then you had DeAndre Jules when he was healthy. That was the fourth. But
are we blanking on this? Okay.
Oh, T.J. Sanders.
That's right, Sanders.
Yeah,
who went up higher than any of them.
Right. So my point on that is, I think you got to have a 1-2. I think you got some bodies there going into year 2 that you can be like, all right. You mentioned Troy Pikes. Caleb Williams is a defensive tackle who sat out this year.
Devontae Miles can come back. Maybe just looking at the roster.
But good job. Can you get Noah Clark in and he develop? Quickly. We'll see what happens. But Gabriel Brownlow Dindy. We'll get more into this and talk about the current roster and the state of the roster as we roll along. You're listening to the Halftime Show. We're rolling along on your Wednesday as we go through the process of breaking down and analyzing what exactly is going on with South Carolina athletics. And good news for you, we're going to be here all through the spring doing this because I feel like we're just going to stop talking football in about February, and instead of football, we'll be doing basketball and baseball.
Yeah. Again, I think we've mentioned this before. I have no clue what to expect out of baseball, and Jack and Whittle and all those guys do a really great job of updating things throughout the offseason and portal acquisitions and fall ball and all that kind of stuff. And it all sounds great. I need to see it on the field.
Yeah.
When we finally see it on the field, then I'll believe it because, oh, boy, last year was pretty bad. I think because Jack and I did our worst of the year yesterday for non-football sports for South Carolina, and I put in there, like, baseball, a lot of different ways to go with it, but I thought, like, Maneri's handling of the Clemson series was really bad. It just didn't seem like he got it right in his first year, and that's not the reason why they lost those games, but it didn't help, and so it didn't help the sentiment he has with the fan base.
You can say that if you win. Steve Spurrier said it, and we all went, yeah, you're right. And then he lost his first year in a close game. He won his second year up there. And because he won, people went, that guy knows what he's talking about. Because he didn't win after that for about 4 years.
Right.
Is that right? He won in 05. He lost in 06. 07. 07 was here. 05 he won. 06 he lost. Excuse me, I'm sorry. 05 he lost. 06 he won. 07 he lost. He lost in 08. So he lost 2 years. 09 they won again. And everybody's like, dude's a genius. Knows what he's talking about. Don't lose this year, Paul. I hate to put it that simply. That's just as simple as it is. I don't care what they're ranked. I don't care what you're ranked. Don't lose. And Tyler, we've been talking basketball. I want to get to some football here in a second, but is that kind of where we're at with Lamont Paris now? Like, don't talk. And I love hearing Lamont talk. I love hearing basketball people talk basketball. I learned something. But it's kind of like just, man, you got to win. It's just that simple. I don't care how you do it.
I said this last year, and I know he did wear something different at the Greenbrier, but, like, if you got to ditch the quarter zip to change the juju a little bit, do it. You got to wear a Hawaiian shirt, I don't know. Do something different. If that's what you think it takes to win, then by all means do it. I will not sit here and stop you. Do whatever you need to do to try and get this thing back on track. Because, again, based on what we saw, again, we're going off of the 11-game sample size we have, it's not been great right now so far this season.
803-404-6100. So we'll do a football segment. Next hour, we got a lot to get into. We're going to go back to the Steve Tannehill stuff. I want to get into how you honor him. I've seen some great suggestions, by the way.
Okay.
And I want to get into that. Coastal Carolina hired Ryan Beard yesterday. Was it yesterday officially?
They introduced him yesterday.
Okay, yeah. Okay, that's what I thought.
Would have been hired a few days ago, I guess.
Well, that's what I meant. Introduction yesterday. I want to get into that a little bit. So we'll kind of wrap up this hour with our football and basketball discussion before we move on to some other topics. But as it pertains to football, I spoke my piece on Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy and why I think he's such an integral part. Also, I'll just tell you this from people that I talked to down there who are in the facility, who interact with these kids each and every day, and they interact with them in the team meeting rooms and everything. From everything I grasped, this is a phenomenal young man. Like a true team. Like, this is a guy you need. And I know this year he was what he was, but this is a future team leader that is, again, another guy who grabs guys by the face mask and said, no, we're going to win this game. We're going to do it this way.
I can echo that sentiment. After he transferred in back in the spring, we had him on the Garnet Trust Hour, and because of his schedule, we had to pre-record it. So I did it one-on-one with him, and yeah, I thought he was a really good interview and just seemed like a really good dude. That was before he got married, so he is one of the guys on the roster that has been married. He's 22, 23. He's been around for a little while. 21.
I didn't think it was that. I thought he was 21-ish.
I'll have to check.
22.
But either way, mature guy, good head on his shoulders. No one wants to be like a preacher. It seems like a mature dude, and the play on the field certainly backed that up. Again, dealt with injuries this year, so you certainly don't want that to be the case, coming up next year. But he was a presence that you felt in the interior of that defensive line, being able to stop the run, being able to get some pressure on quarterbacks. And again, we talked about it. The defense did their job for the most part this year. It's the offense that really let this team down. So if we had a better season, if it went 8-4, and Carolina's offense was better, and we were really being able to sit in here and say, man, MVPs of the team, like, I think you'd say Gabriel Brown-Lindley would at least be in the conversation for defensive MVP, given the role that he played and the impact that he had.
Yeah. So you're with me, and you
Yes.
kind of pointed out several things that why you feel he's the most important player after the big three that we just talked about.
And like you kind of pointed out, he's very reminiscent of those guys that you had in the interior a season ago. Now, again, you want to see a couple more pieces around him be able to do that. Maybe it is Troy Pikes. Maybe go out there and get a couple guys in the transfer portal that can add some depth there. But you have a guy that is the starting point for your presence up front on the defensive line.
Yeah. All right. So we both go with Brownlow-Dindy. Now, that doesn't mean Vakari Swain is not important.
No, all those guys played their role. And again, the defense had a mostly good season. Well, that wasn't what we came in here usually complaining about on Mondays.
Yeah, I mean, they would wear down in the fourth quarter, and that's going to be part of it, building depth for South Carolina and Shane Beamer, is you've got to build some more depth there, defensive line. I think, again, we learned more this year, not that we didn't already know, especially for your longtime fans, about how important depth is in the SEC on the defensive line. Just having bodies is not having depth, right? Just running out 6 interior defensive linemen does not mean, oh man, we got a 3 deep. We're pretty solid. No, you need 4 of those dudes to be legit SEC guys, and 2 guys that maybe are like taking up a couple snaps here and there with another one to get you through.
Let's not forget your position coach was absent for most of the season.
That's a great point on
given his health situation. Now, I don't know what role he was playing with practice and stuff by season's end, but at least for the first part of the year, he wasn't around because he was laid up in a hospital bed and trying to recover and all that kind of stuff. So you had a position group not led by the guy that you thought it was going to be led by, and give a lot of credit to Jordan Dove for doing the job that he did. But it wasn't exactly the most ideal situation this year in the defensive line room either.
803-404-6100 is, again, how you can weigh in if you want to do so on that. Now, a few other players, obviously, a guy that you don't want to lose is Vakari Swain, because you expect him to fill in now for Brandon Cisse.
And he played a lot this year.
He did, and he was really coming on at the end of the season. When they finally put him in over Miles Norwood, it again felt like the defense took a turn. And he's got that kind of swagger and that, kind of like, you kind of almost want to be like, hey, man, settle down a tad. Just chill out. But he's got that swagger that you need a defense to play with.
And you add in what he does on special teams, that's just a bonus.
Yeah. But you got him. We'll see if one of these other defensive backs steps up. To me, Jazavion Currents is back. So you feel, as you said, you feel good about the defense. Now the question becomes, is there a dude on offense? Because are we all in agreement that the running back position is priority A1? 1A, whatever.
If you said there's only one position group you're allowed to pull from the portal, I think most of us would say it has to be running back. Just because you just don't have the numbers. You have 3 scholarship guys. That's not no school around the country is going to tell you that's a comfortable position to be in.
That to me, that position, you get an upper tier running back, upper tier. You get a Rocket Sanders-esque running back. I'll admit, I'm doing what I said I shouldn't do. I'm doing what I know I shouldn't do. Give me all the Kool-Aid. Just put it, have it in gallons, have it in buckets each and every day. Y'all are going to be so annoyed with me if they get another. I'll go ahead and tell you. For all you people out there who are like me right now, like, I don't want to see nothing. I don't want to see videos. I don't want to know anything. I'll learn when you learn on September 5th. Boy, are y'all going to not like me. Because if they get a running back, my little fandom is going to go like, hey, I don't know about you, but buddy, 10-2. Because I legitimately think with Kendall Briles, with Lenora Sellers, with that defense, adding pieces, they don't have a running back. Now, maybe Matthew Fuller and Jarwan Howe are the guys. But as you just said, even behind them, we don't know.
And we got to remember, just because you want something in the portal doesn't mean you're going to get it. They needed a running back in the portal 2 years ago, and there's a reason to carry on Jonah had to shift over and become one because you didn't land what you needed. So you can go in there with a wish list. Doesn't mean Santa's going to bring it down the chimney.
I don't agree with that. Santa brings everything, kids. Santa brings everything. Just ask him. Go visit him in his sleigh or something. 803-404-6100. We'll come back, wrap up hour number 2. You're listening to the Halftime Show. All right, let's wrap up the hour. A lot to get to next hour. Some Steve Tannehill stuff. We'll also get to Coastal Carolina because I'm pulling for Coastal. Coastal's really becoming one of my probably maybe my third team behind Georgia.
Okay.
For people that don't know, Georgia is really the Gunner family team. My dad, my sister, and I are literally like the only three that went to the University of South Carolina. And my mother, but my mother passed away when I was 9. But yeah, we're the black sheep of the family, the outcasts.
I feel like everybody needs an emotional support G5 team. Like you have that G5 team that just holds a special place in your heart. Mine's Kennesaw State, Hootie Hoo playing in the Myrtle Beach Bowl on Friday, by the way.
There you go.
So yeah, if you want to adopt Coastal as yours, I think that checks out.
That's mine. Chance, if you're listening down there, send me some gear. Free gear. Free gear. Keyword free. 803-404-6100. We'll talk about that in the next hour. Let's go to Brian. Let's go to Brian on the phone lines. Thank you for being patient and holding. Your thoughts on the basketball game last night?
Hey, guys, I want to comment on the basketball, but I would like to iterate. I know y'all are going to talk about Steve Tannehill, and I absolutely agree with one of his last requests to the university was to start doing more and recognizing our players from the past in all sports. We just really need to do that. We have to do more as a sports program because we don't have that big history that a lot of schools have. We got to do more to attract more. But anyway, basketball, guys, I sat there and I watched every second. And I sat on the edge of my couch and I paid attention and I listened to the announcers. And it sucks when you're called a classic hang-around team. Guys, we don't have it. This team was built to be shooters. They're not. They can't hit the bottom of an empty swimming pool. I mean, I don't see any energy. Lamont running up and down the sidelines, jumping up and down and screaming and yelling. I understand he's an electric coach. I know he knows basketball, but this just isn't it, man. It's not it. And thank God we have a women's team that's doing something to keep us from having to watch the men, because that's just horrible. That's a disgrace as a basketball program. I don't know what those guys are doing. They don't act like they want to be there. They don't make a second effort to go after balls. I don't see it. I hate to say it, but I just don't see it, guys.
All right. Thank you for the phone call. I will put him in the category of not a believer in Lamont Paris.
I love a good Southernism. They couldn't hit the bottom of a empty swimming pool.
Empty swimming pool. Empty.
I don't know if I've heard that specific one used before, but I like it.
That caught my attention as well. Let's stay on the phone lines. Rob from out of town. Rob, how you doing, buddy? What's on your mind regarding South Carolina?
How you doing, guys? Great show.
Thank you.
I'm gonna give you a different perspective from a guy I'm an Alabama guy first, SEC guy second. I think if one of you guys said it right. You guys are only a couple players short of being a great team. You had an issue with Mike Sheelan. I knew Mike. I was a GA at Alabama when Mike was their quarterback. Mike was a pro-style guy. He kind of handcuffed the sellers this year. Didn't call plays and design plays that worked for him the year before. You guys, your schedule, your Florida schedule was killer. It wasn't even close. Anybody else compares your schedule and Florida schedule, anybody is just lying to themselves, because I don't care who you are. You could have gave Georgia that schedule. You could have given Alabama that schedule. Anybody that schedule, they would have struggled at some point. You guys just were missing a few key players. So I think you guys are on. I have confidence in Coach Beamer. Known him for a long time. I think he solved his problem with bringing Browse in. You're going to see a different look next year. Your defense played hard all year long. So from a guy who's an SEC guy from afar, I can tell you everybody respects South Carolina. Nobody's looking at South Carolina like we did 7 or 8 years ago in your dead period there when you were struggling. That's not the case anymore. You guys, you're one Diego Pavia type player on both sides from being that team, right? So I would just tell you guys, from our side of you, from a guy who worked for Coach Saban and worked for Coach Bryant, worked for Coach Stallings, I just got a lot of respect for what you guys are doing over there. I just really do. I see the momentum there that you guys. And I think Clemson is going the opposite direction. You can see the writing on the wall. It's coming. So the truck was going to flip flop, and I think you guys are ready for a long term of great success there over the next few years.
Appreciate the phone call. As you were talking, I was just trying to think in this century, I think with the exception of LSU, this century, so going back to 2000, South Carolina's beaten every team that they've played in the SEC, haven't played Texas, and then the one they have not beaten is LSU.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I think that's right. I'm fairly certain very quickly of that. All right, we'll get into some other topics coming up in hour number 3. Steve Tannehill, Coastal Carolina, and whatever else we want to weigh in on. Be prepared. Hour 3 on the way. Bill Gunner for the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder and First Palmetto Bank. Right now, you need to give them a phone call. Why, you ask? Because 2026 is coming up on us, and if you've been paying attention, the Fed is lowering interest rates. Things are happening with interest rates, and all you need to do is see what options are available to you and then make some decisions. Now, you might be thinking about building or buying a home. Maybe you want to refinance, or maybe you got some remodeling you want to do and you want to get a loan for it. Again, you just need to get the information that is necessary for you making the key decisions of your life. And that's precisely what the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder, is there to help you with. And he's phenomenal at it. He helped me about 5 years ago. He's helped all kinds of families across the Midlands, and he is there to help you. But you can't do it if you don't call him. 803-719-1005. I think that's 803-719-1005. Call and get the information first, then make some key decisions with the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder of First Palmetto Bank. I'm not asking this sarcastically. I'm genuinely asking. Josh on our text line weighs in. He says, yeah, everyone in the conference is really respecting a 1-7 league team. And I get what he's asking, but I'm going to ask this question to Josh. Text back in, 803-404-6100. How old are you? Because what that caller said got me thinking about something. And that is the fact that he's right. South Carolina has earned the respect this century. That's why I said century. I think of the SEC. I do think that caller is right, that teams respect South Carolina more. And I asked that question, Josh, of how old you are, because I wonder if you remember the 90s. Like, we're going to talk about Steve Tannehill in the next hour. I don't think you know the answer to this, but you've been around it the last few days, and you might. Do you know how many winning seasons total, South Carolina had with Steve Tannehill as the quarterback?
It was just one when they went to the bowl game, right?
Precisely. And yet, full-on legend. The 90s were a bad time for South Carolina. Like, there was no respect. And now I think about that and how the SEC viewed. You had the Kentucky beat writer writing articles they should throw South Carolina out of the league. Like, and so I asked that question because as we talk about where South Carolina stands, and we've said it, and you're gonna hear me pound this into your head to start January and February and March, and until we get the basketball season. 2026 is the year of Jeremiah Donati. Now, Lamont Paris, Paul Maneri, and Shane Beamer can make it easy on him, right?
Of course.
Win games. Don't put me on the spot. Don't make Jeremiah Donati have to make tough decisions or cost someone their job. Take away their job, I should say. He doesn't cost it. But don't put him on the spot, right?
Right. Make his job easy.
Yeah.
You win, no problem. Basketball and, obviously making the tournament would be phenomenal, but you at least get yourself in the conversation. Then I think you've done enough to warrant, all right, let's keep this going.
It depends. The NIT is not what the NIT was 20 years ago, but, if you can get there, if you can be on the outside looking at it, I don't know.
Some kind of postseason.
Yeah.
I
think there's too many even now in basketball. I'm anti NCAA tournament expansion. That day is coming, Tyler.
Get used to it.
Prepare yourself accordingly. I will cry on air that day. It'll be one of the many times I've cried on air now, but I'll not be happy with that day. But 2026 is going to be the year of Jeremiah Donati, and it's up to Lamont Paris and SEC play. It's up to Paul Maneri throughout the season. It's going to be up to Shane Beamer. We feel good with the girls. Dawn Staley, Ashley Chastain Woodard. This is what happens when you win, by the way.
They carried this year.
Well, this is what happens when you win. Lord knows a year ago, I would have not included softball in the discussion, but they won, and now we go, come on in. Welcome to the party. Cool kids are over here. That's where you go. No, don't sit over there with the losers right now.
They were an out away from going to play for a championship.
Right.
Which it's a lot closer than anybody else got, so with the exception of women's basketball.
Michael weighs in and said Tannehill and South Carolina beat LSU in 95. I thought that was 94. Nick says 94. I'm not saying South Carolina's never beat LSU. My point was that this century, since 2000 on, South Carolina's, I think, beat every team that they've played. Obviously, they've not played Texas yet. But I think that, again, Tyler, this is before your time, the amount of disrespect that South Carolina had in the league from 92 when they entered, which they weren't, I think we would all, for those that remember, they weren't welcomed with open arms. South Carolina was not welcomed in 92. It wasn't like, hey, we're bringing South Carolina in, everybody cool. And I was like, really?
I think for a lot of people, like, oh, yeah, that place George Rogers went. Okay.
I don't even think people remember that. It was like, hey, couldn't we, Florida State? I know they said no, but can we revisit? What about Miami? Can we get Miami? Like, can we get anybody else? And now I think South Carolina's had some success, not in 2025. You can now say the calendar year of 2025, South Carolina officially went 10-53 because they beat Clemson. I guess actually they went in the calendar year, they went 9-54 against Clemson in the SEC. Trade out the win. Remember that stat I gave you had the victory over Clemson as part of but that win occurred in November of 2024. December. Anyway, point being is it occurred in the year 2024.
For last year's team, yes. Is that what you're talking about, right? Because it would have happened in December 2024. So
there would be 9 wins because you delete one. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
You delete one off of that and add a loss because the calendar year's 2025.
So he was carrying that win over to count for this year's team?
Right.
Okay, I see.
That's also part of it because it occurred, I think, I can't remember when that game was played in the 2024-2025 season. And even worse, and I sit here and I'm talking about respecting everything they've got to do, even worse, against Clemson, you didn't win a singular event in your big 3 sports. 0-3 against Clemson in baseball, 0-1 against Clemson in football this past not too long ago, and 0-1 in basketball now that we're wrapping up 2025 and you just lost the basketball game.
Again,
thank you women.
114-81 in those 5 contests.
Yeah, thank you to the ladies out there and then somebody earlier said men's soccer too, and they lost as well. 803-404-6100. But Josh, send me that. I just am curious because, South Carolina during that 90s, man, that was full-on disrespect, and it was public disrespect too. But we'll continue going through the next several months talking about this. But again, we've talked about Trevon Ball. If you don't know, if you're just tuning in, Trevon Ball, South Carolina offensive lineman, 2-year starter essentially, is announced he will enter the transfer portal for the Gamecocks. Both of us are like, yeah, it's a loss. It's a loss. How big of a loss? I don't know. I would have liked to seen him with Randy Clements. I would have liked to seen him back as a starter on the offensive line because I'm not trying to convince anybody he was all American, all SEC, but I think he was a solid contributor for which a new offensive line coach could work with.
And I think we can say that about all the guys in this offensive line that do decide to stay. It's like, okay, well, the optimism and hope is that Coach Clem will get them to where they need to be. Not a guarantee, and we're going to spend the entire offseason speculating about this, but that's the hope. And when you have a guy like Ball leaves, like, what could he have been if he does decide to stay? And we'll see where he ends up. Maybe he's following Leonard Teasley to Nebraska. I don't know. That's something that you might have to keep your eye out for because, again, when you fire a position coach, you risk losing some of those players when the transfer portal comes around, and you've already lost a couple of those guys now.
If he follows Lonnie Teasley, do you I understand? Or you're like, that Lonnie Teasley, it's just a stab in the back on the way out.
I don't think anybody's terribly upset about it.
Okay, doesn't matter. Kind of like Steven's point of they weren't very good to begin with. Whatever, follow him. Good luck getting better under Lonnie Teasley.
I think people now look at Nebraska as the place where coaches you weren't fans of seem to end up.
Okay.
After the fact. Now they took Marcus Satterfield, but nobody here was upset about that when that move happened, and Lonnie Teasley ends up at Nebraska. But it is funny that it's now happened a couple of different times in the past few years.
So that's our football discussion. Also, we threw out there 803-404-6100. We threw out there outside of what we are deeming the big 3, Sellers, Dylan Stewart, Nick Harbour, who is the one player South Carolina simply can't lose in this transfer portal. I know there's not many. You can narrow it down to a handful of guys. We don't. I think Tyler and I both agree. There's nobody on offense outside of that. I would be upset if Josiah Thompson entered the portal. I would be like, man, that's a loss. That's a big loss because I want to see what he does under Randy Clements. But I'd also be like, you might be able to upgrade. It's not out of the question. Defensively, there was a few more options. Vakari Swain is another person that some people have weighed in. I believe this was Chad on Chad on our Twitter responded to you and I and went with Vakari Swain. You could go Fred Johnson. I get that.
That when I asked the question, that was one of the names that was kind of percolating in my mind, like maybe JR, but Gabriel Brownlow-Dinley, I think, definitely takes the cake.
We went Brownlow-Dinley. Both of us did because I think defensive tackles in this league are a dime a dozen, especially for a school like South Carolina. You've got one. I think him being healthy next year, being more comfortable in the system, and as Tyler pointed out, getting another offseason with Travian Robertson, and no offense to Jordan Love. Was it Jordan Love or
Dove?
Jordan Dove.
Jordan Love
plays.
Packers.
Yeah. So he doesn't need to learn quarterback. But another offseason with Travian Robertson, another preseason, an actual preseason with Travian Robertson. I think Gabriel Brownlow-Dinley, and I know you guys are going to be like, that's a little tough. He could develop into one of the top 5, top 10 defensive tackles. Remember, he was highly thought of coming out. He was a top 30 recruit. He was a 5-star. Yeah,
that's right.
So the talent's there, and he tore his ACL on the final play of an All-Star game and never fully recovered at A&M.
That's his thing, is like staying healthy. Because, again, as much as he played this year, he's also dinged up a lot. So a fully healthy Gabriel Brownlow-Dinley with another offseason of working with Coach Robertson, the sky's the limit.
So if you want to weigh in on that this hour, we're going to get into some other stuff. Talk to Steve Tannehill next, but and how you honor him, but also honor other players. But if you want to weigh in on that question of who is the next player South Carolina just simply can't lose in the transfer portal. Also today, we have discussed basketball. 68-61 loss to Clemson last night. And, yeah, I mean, fair or unfair, Tyler, and there's going to be people out there who go, man, those two morons from 12 to 3, they're already burying Lamont Paris. They ain't Gamecock fans. They're not a Gamecock station. They're not a Gamecock. They already putting the coach down. It's a fair question to ask now that that you're going to be 0-4 against your bigger non-conference opponents, Butler, Northwestern, Virginia Tech, and Clemson. South Carolina goes 0-4. Their strength of schedule as of yesterday, I didn't look today, their strength of schedule was 350th in the country, Tyler. It's hard to say. If you weighed in this morning and this afternoon, and some of you they have, and you've heard I've read it, if you're like, nah, they ain't going to have success in the SEC, it's hard for you and me to come back and be like, yeah, they are. Just settle down and allow it to play out.
There's no right or wrong way to think about this right now, because you're still kind of at the crossroads of which way this season is going to go. And I go back to our conversation with Lamont Paris before the season started when we talked about scheduling pretty light for most of your non-conference games, and then having the Greenbrier games, obviously the ACC, SEC Challenge with Virginia Tech, and then the rivalry game with Clemson is your only games that really stand out or you could learn. And we have learned a lot. Unfortunately, we've learned this team can't quite get it done against those kind of teams. Now, that doesn't mean it can't change, doesn't mean that they can't figure something out in the next couple of weeks, but I think we have a large enough sample size right now to know what this team is probably going to be, and right now that doesn't give us a lot of confidence, unfortunately.
So we're asking, and this will probably carry on for a little bit as we continue to watch game results come in. And I know a lot of you have also weighed in this afternoon and talked about apathy within the basketball program and apathy towards watching it. I last night did a little live watch thing. Austin, my son, hopped in with me a little bit, and we did a father-son tandem thing. And some people responded on Twitter and were like, I have no interest in watching you and or the basketball team. And they're like, don't take offense to it. I was like, no, it's cool. I get it. I get it if you're out there and you're part of the people. I get it if you're part of the people out there that are like, man, I've had enough. And I get it. I also do truly get it if you're some of the people out there like, no, I still believe in Coach. We're going to ride this out to the end. That's
fine.
Perfectly fair now.
You're not wrong. Again, I think we're looking at this from more of a holistic standpoint of things that could probably happen if this continues to trend this way. Because, yeah, if you're looking at going 2-16 in conference play, I think we're talking about a head coach search in the offseason. And that's nothing against Lamont Paris. Again, we like him as a person, and seems like a good dude. But business is business at the end of the day. And if you're not winning, and what we've seen in now 3.5 years has been more bad than good, then things start happening.
So if you want to weigh in on any of that, feel free to. 803-404-6100. That's how you can be a part of that discussion. But coming up next, how do you honor Steve Tannehill? There's more than just, to me, well, we're going to give him a halftime ceremony at the Kent State game. I am of the opinion there needs to be a little bit more, and I'll explain that and what I think they could do. Also this hour, we'll talk a little bit about Coastal Carolina as they hire Ryan Beard. 803-404-6100. You're listening to the Halftime Show.
All right, here for our friends over at Pro Swing Columbia. Hey, Christmas is in a week, and if you need a last-minute gift or stocking stuffer, head on over to Pro Swing and grab a gift card for you or somebody you know that just loves golf but doesn't want to have to go play outside of the nasty cold of the winter. Instead, you can play inside on those wonderful golf zone simulators in a climate-controlled environment. You can rent them by the hour, and they have memberships available as well. And while you're playing on the simulators, you can also improve your golf swing because they have free 30-minute swing evaluations as well to make you a better all-around golfer. Lesson packages are available from beginners to scratch golfers and from kids to adults. They also have club fittings and are a tailor-made dealer as well. Go online to ProSwingColumbia.com to book online or give them a call at 803-592-3916 for more information. Pro Swing Columbia in 2 locations in Forest Acres and in Chapin.
And we're all out there practicing in the indoor there in Tuscaloosa, and it was like December, kind of this time. You know, you could take business in December. And here comes this guy, walks in, and we're playing for Gene Stallings. And, you know, we all know Gene Stallings as players. And he shows up, we got the recruiting guy with him, and he had that long hair. He had that long hair and all that swag, and we all were in there going, oh yeah, we ain't getting him. Like we like knew right there, like, yeah, we ain't getting him. And and sure enough, we didn't. And he goes to South Carolina.
Dabo was good this week. Dabo, I appreciate the story. We make fun of Dabo a lot, but he was good, and the stories were good.
I don't think Steve Tannehill would have fit in on Gene Stallings' team.
No.
I think Dabo is right on that.
No.
We ain't getting him.
And that's another thing about Tannehill that I don't think, because it wasn't promoted as much back then because there wasn't as much social media, but he was a big-time recruit. Like, Alabama had offered him. Florida State. It wasn't some dude. No offense to Connor Shaw. I covered his recruitment. I was kind of a lead point person. I went over to Flowery Branch and interviewed him on the field and for the Big Spur, and for 24/7 Sports. I was kind of the point person. I was actually standing after the spring game. I was actually standing probably 15 feet away, and I was standing next to him. He goes, "Hey, just FYI, I'm committing to Coach Spurrier here in a minute." The Spurrier was coming off the field.
Yeah.
So I'm standing with him kind of in the tunnel, going into the locker room. Just, hey, how was the visit? How you doing? What's going on? Everything. And I had gotten to know him, helped tremendously that when I went to visit him at Flowery Branch, J.C. Sherbert and the Big Spur had given me a little mini camera, right? I get over there, and I do the interview. It's got the camera's got the interview on it. And I'm going to another high school, Buford, I think. But I'm going to another high school.
Not that far away.
I get to the high school, and I can't find the camera.
Oh, no.
I've left this piece of equipment that has been entrusted in my care at Flowery Branch. And not only have I left it there, I don't know where I've left it. And no offense to kids out there these days, I'm not sure if some kid has, and it's a video camera. It's not a snapping, take pictures camera. And I have no idea what's happened to this camera. And I know kids these days, and I'm like, man, some kid walked down the hall, and I've left this on the desk. That camera's gone. So I'm driving 390 miles an hour from Buford High School, I think, back to Flowery Branch. Like, please don't let somebody take. Please don't let this. Sure enough, I'd left it on a desk in a classroom that I was over there getting. Because I called Connor, and I was like, hey, dude, you got to find this camera for me. But my voice is shaking. I'm like, I'm going to be fired. I'm going to get fired. And we get over there, and we find the camera, and I think he could see the panic and fear in my eyes. So Connor was always great to me after that.
Okay, cool.
And I say all that because Connor was a 3-star recruit. Like, he turned into one of the best quarterbacks all the time, if not the best. But his recruitment was kind of like, all right, we beat out Georgia Tech for him. West Virginia. Oh, boy. Tannehill, you beat out Florida State. You beat out Alabama. You beat out all the big schools.
Right.
And that was Brad Scott doing a great actually, it was Sparky Woods. And we did something this morning for Steve, Jamie Bradford, and I did. And they played a clip from Steve, and he talked about it. And he said, Sal Connor promised me they would let me wear my hair long.
Probably went a long way.
They would let me wear my hair long, and they promised me a chance to play as a freshman. And he said that he actually, in whatever video Jamie put together, Tyler specifically said, I didn't go to Florida State because they wouldn't promise me a chance to play as a freshman.
Okay.
So it was a big recruiting win as well to take someone away from Bobby Bowden and Gene Stallings, who at that time was on the verge of winning a national championship. They would win it there in 92, I believe. And to do all that, and it was a big recruiting win for Sparky Woods.
Yeah, that's huge. And again, kind of going back to Dabo's story, he's somebody that the play obviously speaks for itself, but it's that personality, moxie, and swagger that really kind of made him a bit more of a larger-than-life figure and made him obviously so beloved for not only his playing days, but the time that he spent afterwards here in Columbia. As we talked about the other day, he wasn't a local kid. He's from Pennsylvania, so he had no reason to stick here and stay, but he wanted to, and obviously became ingrained in the community. And again, you've heard the tributes in the past couple of days. Everybody loved the guy.
So how do we properly honor him? You don't want to get too carried away. At the same time, he needs to be properly honored. It is my belief, and Tyler, let's start with this. Just doing a halftime video celebration and the family on the field, Steve's not there to speak for himself. It's not enough. It is nowhere near close enough.
You need something physical that lasts, right? And I get it. His name's in the stadium with records and stuff like that, but something more permanent, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a statue. I mean, statues are obviously a point of conversation for the greatest of greats. Not saying that he wouldn't qualify for that, but just something physical, whether it be because how many of the jersey retirements have we had so far?
Alshon and Jadeveon.
That's it. Okay, so you could do something along those lines. Two true ones.
I don't like jersey retirements. I don't like jersey retirements as a whole for anybody. I don't like taking numbers out of circulation. I think you make those big time numbers. A wide receiver wearing number 1 or number 2, which will never happen again. I think with Alshon, you still got someone wearing number 1, right? I think
those numbers are still in circulation.
2 is not.
Yeah, 2 isn't.
236. 36 was Wadiak. That might be it. The 2 true number retirements. Because I guess they define it as a jersey retirement against a number retirement, retiring his number.
Right, where nobody else can wear that.
Right, and if you want to do that, okay, but it's got to be someone incredibly special. But with all that being said, there's no need to retire 18. But how do you honor him? One of the things, and I'm just telling y'all that I read, I think, message boards or Twitter, I don't remember, somebody might have hit me up with this. I like the idea of highlighting the 18-yard line on both sides, however you want to do that.
You do that.
Highlighting the 18-yard line for the 7 home games, and underneath it or somewhere, now it's unfortunately right around where the, is it Blanchard Cat, whatever?
That's at the 25.
Okay, so it's right, unfortunately it's right around it.
Extends out.
But you do it, and underneath it, not in huge lettering, but you have his signature.
You could do that. What about putting his name on the cockpit? Because, again, he was a great player, but also somebody that had his fun, really kind of embodied the college student athlete to a T. I think that kind of fits the vibe of what a student section is. So the Steve Tannehill cockpit or something along those lines.
That's a great way to do it. I'm kind of becoming a pro statue guy.
Okay.
I don't want to retire Connor Shaw's jersey, but I think he needs more recognition. I think Steve Tannehill needs more recognition. What are we going to do with Steve Spurrier? How do you properly honor Steve Spurrier while at the same time recognizing he's not really ours, right? He's Florida's.
True.
He did great things here. I'm okay with an area around, preferably, and I don't know where you would do this, but preferably on the campus of Williams-Brice. You know what I mean by on the campus?
Yes.
So if you want to do it over there by what used to be I think it actually might be now, but the ticket office. I was in there just a few weeks ago looking at videos of the new suites that they're putting out. But if you wanted to do something out in front of that, and again, there's stipulations on what this required. But if you want to do a little monument area, and maybe it's not a statue, maybe it's monuments, maybe it's granite stone with a nice plaque with their face on it, and you have kind of a ripping off the thought of a Yankees or Alabama's got something similar, a monument park, but somewhere that as I'm walking to the game, and I have to pass there to get to where I go in, I can take my 13-year-old son Austin and say, these are Gamecock legends, and I can point to them.
I think that's fair. Some kind of like plaque or stone thing, and you could do something of Tannehill raising his arms after the Clemson game, and have that etched in stone or on a plaque or something like that with a little excerpt about what he meant to the program and the success he had, records he holds, and all those kind of things. Yeah, I think because again, the statue is definitely a big commitment and something that you need to be very specific about who gets those, so you're not having 30 statues out there at the end of the day. But I think something along the lines of those kind of like monument type of things wouldn't be a bad idea.
Thank you. I apologize. 38, George Rogers is retired, and Steve Wadiak's 37. Thank you to the texter. I don't know why I felt confident. Would have lost a lot of money on that. Yeah, some of y'all should, instead of telling me, you should wager me on some of these things via the text line. You will be richer because of it. I'm with that. See, and that's what I mean. And please don't put it like on the ground where people are walking on it.
No, 3-4 foot tall little structure where you can stand there and read it and take a picture with it and all that stuff.
That would be what I think you got to do. 803-404-6100. We'll finish this conversation and talk Coastal Carolina. It's the halftime show. 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in on anything. Let me see here. What have we got? It says, I think a large mural of his iconic Clemson, talking about Tannehill, by the way, we're talking about that. I think a large mural of his iconic Clemson picture would be fitting.
Yeah, that could work.
Another one says, at the entrance to the old Myrtle Beach Air Force Base, there's a history park where they have 3 or 4 foot pedestals with different parts of the base's history. Something like that in Gamecock Park would be a way to walk around and teach others about special people in our history. And I agree. Look, I mean,
I dig it.
Let's be perfect. I'm not going to try and sell anybody that South Carolina's got bleeping ton of history in football. The numbers speak for themselves, but you do have to honor guys that stand out. Steve Tannehill, Connor Shaw, quite frankly, there's a lot, in my opinion, there should be more done for Sterling Sharp. You need to do something a little bit for Steve Spurrier. Again, after that, all right, we start to draw a line in the sand of, well, does that guy need something? Does that guy need something?
You can't give it to everybody.
Right.
Right. It's like there has to be a certain level of qualification to be a part of whatever this thing's going to be. Because again, it's not just specifically a thing for Steve Tannehill. If you're talking about monuments or little plaques or whatever, you have several of them, and it's something that allows you to build and grow. Right. You start with a couple. Again, Sterling Sharp, Tannehill, Spurrier, whatever, and you grow from there. And you hope that you continue to have tons of high-level guys that weren't being out there. You know what I mean? So it'd be, and you got areas you can do this in, but I'd be on board with that.
That would be mine. I mean, get through the current renovations, but, again, I'm not talking something that's millions upon millions of dollars. It's something that's rather easy. Personally, the Gamecock Park thing is fine. That's what you got it over there for. I'm kind of big on trying to do it on the campus, the facility right there, the corner where Williams-Brice is, so that it's on there. So that basically anybody coming from the fairgrounds or from up my way where I tailgate doesn't have to walk all the way to Gamecock Park. But if you wanted to put it over there, you're not going to hear a peep from me on that. But I think more needs to be done for Tannehill. The 18-yard line thing seems pretty cool. And to your point, and we'll move on to Coastal Carolina, but to your point, you do it, you're not doing it, you're doing it to honor them, but you're also doing it for people like me and a lot of y'all out there who have younger kids who don't know these players, and you want to take them to a game, but you want to show them some history. Maybe you fail to mention that Steve Tannehill only had 1 winning season in 4.
Yeah.
But you brag about, you get nostalgic, maybe a tear comes to your eye, and your son or your daughter goes, man, I want to be a part of that. And then you failed to mention the overall history of South Carolina football. You just mentioned the good times.
You don't, because again, those programs overly weren't that successful when Tannehill was here outside of that 1 year and winning that bowl game. But you don't want those kind of guys to be lost to history. And that's what you run the risk of, because, again, for people like you that were kids back then, you're getting into the 40s and 50s and stuff like that. So the stories of him will fade as the years go by. But if you have some kind of permanent monument for years to go along that you tell your kids about, they tell their kids about, and so on and so forth, that legend and story of that person, in this case talking about Tannehill, continue on.
All right. I'll just read this, and then we'll do a quick promo of the afternoon. Clemson Sean. Wait, and that Clemson Sean's fairly down the line. He'll get a little over the top sometimes. I actually think I'm kind of with him on this. Follow me here. Okay, you only do this for 1 game. And now, again, in all the honor, you have a Steve Tannehill day. His picture's on the ticket. You can honor him at halftime of that game.
Do we have any games on the 18th of the month? Let me see.
Look it up. You do it. You honor Steve Tannehill. The whole day is committed to him. You have videos ready to go on the scoreboard. I mean, the whole day is committed to him. And as a part of that, because I don't know if I want to do this for 7 games, Clemson Sean says, instead of waving white towels around the stadium next year, make Steve's ponytail mullets the accent during Sandstorm.
I could dig it.
Do it for 1 game.
Sure.
Part of Steve Tannehill Day, honoring him. And you make a big production out of it, a big deal. And that's part of his. And then I do think you need something outside the stadium honoring him, not just on that day, but honoring him forever.
No games on the 18th of the month next year.
Do it for the Towson game, or do it for the Kent State game. I don't care. Clemson Sean, that's a good one. 803-404-6100. Speaking of coaches, reminder coming up in about 20 minutes. right at the top of the show for Jay and Terry. Shane Beamer will be joining them, and he will be on there for about 20 minutes. So if you got to take a bathroom break, if you've got to leave your radio for a second or however you're listening, Tyler and I will understand if you do it during our show right now to prep and hear accordingly.
We'll just leave it on so we still get the numbers.
Excellent point.
Come back.
Excellent point. Do that. 803-404-6100. Yesterday, Coastal Carolina and our good friend Chance Miller introduced Ryan Beard, former coach at Missouri State, will now be the coach at Coastal Carolina. Here is Chance Miller introducing Ryan Beard. Oh, we don't have the audio.
Uh-oh. We do not. Okay.
All right, that blows up that whole little bit. Test 8, and see if it's the same thing, please. Your thoughts on this hire?
I think it's good. I mean, he's been at Missouri State. He helped them transition from FCS up to FBS, which is always a tricky thing. I know you don't look at the record and it doesn't scream out to you anything crazy or anything like that, but for a program like Coastal that in and of itself was still early on in its process at the FBS level, I think this is a guy that, again, shows you the ability to help build a program and raise them up to another level that hopefully carries over to his time at Coastal.
What I don't like, what I'm not a fan of, I think you got to hire, an offensive-minded coach.
Okay.
He is a defensive coordinator by trade. He's a defensive mind. I think at Coastal, and in a way, if you will, and please don't take this the wrong way and post me all over Twitter and message boards, I think Florida always has to hire an offensive coach. John Summerall, you're a defensive dude. Instant strike against you. Urban Meyer, Steve Spurrier, Urban Meyer, Dan Mullen, even Jim McElwain, offensive-minded coaches. Will Muschamp at Florida, defensive-minded. Ron Zook was not an offensive mind. Even Billy Napier was supposed to be offensive-minded, and that didn't go well. But my point is like for Coastal, I think of fun, imaginative, offensive-minded coaches. Sorry to Coastal, you always have Jamie Chadwell in my mind.
Yes.
But I do like the Ryan Beard hire for Chance Miller. I think this was a very good, real first time of being an AD and making a hire. And I think he's got a very solid guy. And you mentioned it. His record is not impressive. But what is impressive is the way he's led teams kind of into the next step of whatever their phase is in college football.
Yeah, he took over at Missouri State after Bobby Petrino, and he's in their first year at the FBS level. He's got him to a bowl game. Like, that's pretty darn good. Now, he's not coaching that bowl game, but still, get him to 7-5 and get him to bowl eligibility is a big deal. And obviously, that's something that hopefully will resonate with his time at Coastal. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just basing this on record, 4-7, 8-4, 7-5 at Missouri State. So 19-16. It's intriguing again given that it's me giving my opinion and analysis, which we do here. I'd have preferred an offensive guy. I'd have preferred a young up-and-coming. I'd have gone and checked out the offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle at Oklahoma. I would have done that. But I like this hire. We're going to hope to have him on, Ryan Beard, on Friday.
We'll see who he hires as his offensive coordinator run things.
Yeah, but because you're talking Coastal and a step down, it's not a name. I don't expect it to be a hire. By the way, I don't expect it to be a hire. We know, by the way, Tim Beck appears to be on the verge of being hired at South Florida as their offensive coordinator. Just FYI. And he was obviously an OC and then went to Coastal and didn't have as much success. 803-404-6100. We'll come back and wrap it all up. You're listening to The Halftime Show. wrapping it up. We'll be back tomorrow. It'll be Tyler's final show of the year. I'll be here Friday, and we got Brian Edwards on Friday, and we got Chris Deering, and we may have a few other guests along on Friday. But your final show, are you prepped and ready for if it's a wrap up 2025?
I'm very ready. We've been doing a lot of the review for the year so far. Do a little bit more of that tomorrow, and again, at least for men's sports, hopefully 2026 is a whole lot better.
Oh, daddy. Oh, daddy. So, prep, we'll have a bit of a Christmas show tomorrow. We got some Christmas topics to throw at you. So, prep accordingly. And I'll be back Friday and do a little bit more of that, and we'll wrap up my year for 2025. What a wild year it's been for me personally. But that's not here now. Reminder, coming up in about 10 minutes, do not go anywhere. Do not switch off when we're done. Terry and Jay will have Shane Beamer coming up in about 10 minutes right here on the station for you to listen to. And I know we'll get some answers there out of him on some certain things. So make sure you're tuned in for that 3 o'clock here later on today. All right, fast forward real quick, some professional sports stuff. Kansas City out of the playoffs. What do you think?
I think it's more intriguing now because, okay, who's going to emerge? Because, again, with the exception of the Bengals, they've been in pretty much every Super Bowl for the past 5 years, right? Now that their rise kind of brought the end of the Patriots dynasty, and it is funny that as soon as the Chiefs kind of die off a little bit, well, the Patriots could go right back to being in the Super Bowl. But, I think you look at some of these young stars like Josh Allen, and I don't know if the Ravens are going to be able to make the playoffs. They're still in contention as of right now. But Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Drake May, they haven't had their opportunity. Justin Herbert, they haven't had their opportunity to make it to a Super Bowl. And it seems like we're going to get one of those guys, more likely than not, representing the AFC this year because Mahomes won't be there.
Is this Trevor Lawrence's big chance?
It looks pretty good. They are kind of flying under the radar.
They are 10-4.
10-4. He's looking. Liam Cohen's got him playing some really good football right now. Obviously, the Texans are a little bit down this year, so their Jaguars are controlling the AFC South. But yeah, they could really jump up and surprise some people. I don't know if they're like Super Bowl good, but they can beat anybody on any given day if they play well enough.
Is this now the make or break season for Josh Allen?
It seems like
the door is open now for him to finally get the Super Bowl and not lose to Patrick.
And right now he's playing at an MVP type level. Like he's molding into. I still think Matt Stafford will win the MVP, but Josh Allen is certainly in consideration for that. And again, you move the Mahomes thing out of the way. It seems like if he's ever going to make the Super Bowl, this would be the year to do it.
Yeah, and you might. Drake May, Trevor Lawrence are younger, so maybe that's the possibility. Tua T. Tagovailoa. Whatever. Close enough. Doesn't matter anymore. He got benched today.
He's clipboard Tua now. Or Microsoft Surface tablet Tua, I guess.
Thoughts on that?
It makes sense. Look, the Dolphins, I'm surprised, have done enough to keep their head above water.
Oh, they're eliminated. They're 6-8.
No, they are now eliminated, but they were actually still in contention to make the playoffs up until the Monday night game and don't let the final score fool you, like the Steelers dominated them because it was below 30 degrees and the Dolphins can't play in cold weather. But they had done enough to get themselves back in consideration. And look, Tua, for one, is injured a lot. And he's clearly regressed. And this offense was built around Tua that Mike McDaniel had. And, again, you got nothing to lose at this point. Now, how much better is Quinn Ewers going to be? I don't know. You also have a lot of money tied up in Tua for next year unless you can trade him away, which I don't know if anybody's going to take him. So you got some things to figure out for the future, but you have nothing to lose by trying something different right now.
Only thing is I hope Mike McDaniel gets to hang around. I like his background story. I like him. He's goofy and odd. And, look, Tua, you mentioned the injuries, the concussions. He's not the guy that they drafted. He really hasn't been the guy that we thought he'd be since the hip injury, I believe.
Yeah, when he was at Alabama. And every time he opens his mouth, it just gets worse, man.
Yeah.
He needs to stop talking.
He's a Russell Wilson without Super Bowls.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it because you just you don't know where he's going, and he's throwing teammates under the bus, and then, I don't know, the Dolphins are a mess right now, but Tua's kind of the face of that mess.
Dolphins have been a mess for 25 years.
That is very true.
Haven't won a playoff game since 2000. One more professional league deal. Are you an NBA guy? What would be your level of 1 through 5? What's your level of NBA intrigue throughout the year?
I get into it a lot more in the playoffs because most of the regular season is largely irrelevant. If you are trying and a decent enough team, you'll make the postseason, and the postseason lasts for 7 months anyway.
So I bring this up as we wrap up the show because this is a participation trophy type question. There have been 3 NBA Cups. last night wrapped up number 3. The New York Knicks won. They beat the San Antonio Spurs. Jalen Brunson was tournament MVP. In the previous 2, the Lakers and the Bucks have won. They raised a banner. They put a banner up. The Knicks have now said today they're not going to put a banner up. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Thumbs up. It means nothing. It's something to drive ratings early on in the NBA season. You shouldn't hang a banner for it.
I think I'm with you on this. And maybe that needs to be our last segment of every show now. Thumbs up or thumbs down when we have a couple topics.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm with you. Don't raise. You didn't win anything. It's a tournament in the NBA before Christmas. Means nothing. Tyler's back tomorrow. Producer Ed Bird's back tomorrow. We'll have a fun show planned for you. Y'all have a great rest of your Wednesday. Shane Beamer up next.